day, or at least 2 days, or like the end of Sha'ban. They want to connect Sha'ban to month of Ramadan, right? Then you enter month of Ramadan, mashallah, right? It's all about the ahadith in which it manifests the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what's the difference between these three, right? They say Rajab, right, is for those special or khawas people, right? Meaning that the rahmah, the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it starts pouring down in the month of Rajab, Sha'ban and Ramadan. But in Rajab, the mercy of Allah, right, it comes in a way that only those people who are like part of the khawas or part of the unique people, right, they get the full benefits of that mercy. Why? Because they're ready for it. They've been waiting for it, right? They had kept up their promise throughout the year. So when the month of Rajab comes, the very first one who actually deposit their check will be the khawas, right? The rest, they start working a little bit by committing all these mustahab, fasting, so they get a little bit ready for the month of Sha'ban. In the month of Sha'ban, they receive some of the mercies, right? As they practice more and more in the month of Ramadan, there comes this general mercy as we speak of, right? So everybody's capable of receiving something. Because, we have those ahadith in which it says, whoever does not get forgiven in the month of Ramadan, he or she has absolutely no choice unless on the day of Arafah, right? Meaning that, pretty much like he or she is like, I'm not going to say what's going to happen, right? So meaning that the general mercy is wide open in this month. Again, if it's wide open, we have to make sure that our receiver is capable of receiving it. They bring food here. If I don't have plate, if I cannot use my own hand, how am I going to benefit the food? The food is there. I am hungry for it. I know I'm hungry for it. I want the food. I just don't have the means to get the food. So is the problem from the food, or is the problem from me, or is it from the sponsor? So basically, you get my message, right? So meaning that we always have to make sure that as we get closer and closer and closer to Laylatul Qadr, right? 19th, 21st, and the 23rd, we constantly have this in mind, that it is the night of provisioning. If it's a night of provisioning, that means everything is determined, right? So I want to be there in the best, you can say, shape and the best form that, I could possibly be. Why? The whole year gets provision, right? The whole year of sustenance gets divided. I don't want to miss this opportunity, right? Inshallah. So sallu ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Now, we were talking about the topic of wali, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَكَانُوا يَتَّقُونَ. So it gives two criterion for this wali or awliya Allah. It says those who amanu wa kanu yattaqun, right? Those who are believers, wa kanu yattaqun. Kanu is Mahdi, it's like a past tense, right? Meaning that not only they were believers, but they maintained this topic of taqwa for some time. So they were believers and they were pious. Meaning this continued for some time. It's not a matter of instant, right? No, they went through the journey. They worked on themselves. They said all the no's when they have to say. They said all the yes when they have to say. They worked and practiced and struggled until they reached the stage in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala selected them as His own wali. Wali in English you can say like vicegerent or a successor, right? So now in the another ayah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, hal adullukum ala tijaratin tunjikum min adabin alim. Right? All the believers, hal adullukum ala tijara. Do you want me to guide you towards this business transaction, tijara, tunjikum min adabin alim, which is going to save you from that great punishment, that fire of the hereafter. Who doesn't want to save it from the fire, right? تؤمنون بالله ورسوله. تؤمنون بالله ورسوله. خلاص, right? هذا أمر الكلام آخر الكلام لكن وسط الكلام, right? تؤمنون بالله ورسوله. Have faith in Allah and His Apostle. Have faith in Allah and His Messenger. Have faith again. The topic of Iman, it's not only a matter of saying, I believe in Allah. It's not a matter of saying, I believe in the Prophet, for example, in Rasulullah. It's not a matter of saying, I believe in the Vilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen. No, this is just the starting point, right? Inshallah, so we can actually benefit from this one. Again, so many ayahs which backs up the same idea, right? I'm going to skip through this. I'm going to go to a very famous khutbah or sermon from Amir al-Mu'mineen in which he talks about the signs of this awliya Allah, right? It says, Inna awliya Allah hum alladhina nazaru ila batin al-dunya إذا نظر الناس إلى ظاهرها, right? There's people, the ones that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala selects them as awliya Allah, right? How do they perceive the dunya? What's their perspective? How do they vision everything? انظروا إلى باطن الدنيا إذا نظر الناس إلى ظاهرها. As the people, as the general people, and nas, as they are looking at the appearance of the dunya, at what the dunya looks like, they're looking at the batin. They're looking at the esoteric sides of the dunya, right? They're looking within the dunya. They see the realities of the dunya. وَاشْتَغَلُوا بِعَجَلِهَا إِذَا اشْتَغَلَ النَّاسُ بِعَجَلِهَا, right? As people are going after the stuff that is going to pass them one day, as they're going to lose them one day, they make themselves busy with something that is going to remain for them, right? It's going to be actually sort of everlasting for them. A lot of questions that we get that, for example, why is this haram, why is this halal, why is this not allowed, why is this such and such and such, goes back to this topic. That a mu'min, perspective of a mu'min is that when he or she does something, he wants it to have the maximum result in an everlasting situation. He doesn't want temporary result, right? He doesn't want it like an instant. No, he wants long term, and this long term has to remain, right? We don't want temporary short term result. That's the difference between mu'min and unbeliever. Unbeliever goes for something that's right there, right? For example, I want something sweet, I go for something that has sugar in it, right? Instant, instant, you can say satisfaction, right? Versus mu'min, no. He keeps on thinking that every action I do in the long term, my generation, next generation, generation after that, how is that going to affect me as a mu'min, right? Because that's what's going to remain, right? We have whatever amount of years that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us, but what after that? Is everything's going to come to an end? No, we have baqiyat salihat, right? So the baqiyat salihat is that vision of the mu'min. Every action he does, in terms of choosing a job, choosing a family, having children, right? It looks at it in terms of the long term, not the short term. He doesn't get married just to have a family, just to grow old, have somebody to grow old with, right? The typical stuff that you. No. He looks at a family as what? As an investment plus the passion and the love, right? Meaning that he wants the result of the family to continue, right? Having one child, not one, it's one as an example, one good pious child equals to, I don't know, how much work that you're going to actually do in this dunya, right? Just imagine if you teach one word to mashallah, yesterday we had the kids here, it was about 30 plus children, right? If you teach every single one of them one simple good thing, one simple good act, right? As long as they're saying good stuff, you get the rewards for it as well, right? So mu'min has to be smart in this regard. And that's where the topic of education comes about, right? Out of all the jobs and all the professions that we have, one profession was chosen for the very specific people, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted that to His own messengers. What was that position? What was that title? The matter of teaching, educating, guidance in a way, right? It's the higher stages of it, right? But teaching. And of course it needs the most patience and tolerance as well. Why? Because it has the most, we can say it has the utmost effects in the long term as well, right? So again, let's go back to the sermon. فَأَمَاتُوا مِنْهَا مَا خَشُوا أَنْ يُمِيتَهُمْ وَتَرَكُوا مِنْهَا مَا عَلِمُوا أَنَّهُ سَيَتْرُكُهُمْ. And they kill themselves from whatever they fear that is going to kill themselves. What does it mean? They run away from something that they know is going to occupy their time, right? They run away from life and laugh. Remember those 5 stages of life? The very first 2 was what? إِنَّمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا لَهْوٌ وَلَعِبٌ وَزِينَةٌ وَتَفَاخُرٌ كَانَ أَمْوَالُ وَالْأَوْلَادُ, right? So with this 5, right? So this lahw and laib, if you stay close to it, right? It actually continues throughout everybody's life. Again, a lot of stuff that we play on our cell phone. What do we really are gaining out of this? We call it entertainment. What is entertainment in reality? Isn't it just we're putting our time in front of the TV, in front of the tablet, in front of the cell phone, and then what do we gain out of it? Do we gain anything? Do we get happy? Maybe. to some extent, or do we get depressed? Some people actually get depressed, right? So this matter of entertainment, we have to look at it, we have to like think about it. Is it something that has like, rational benefit for us? Or is it something we just do it to make the time go by? If you just, if you just attend it to make the time go by, that falls within the stage of, like, lahva, right? Remember? We talked about the definition of each stage. Meaning that it goes back all the way to the beginning of life. So meaning that that's okay when we are like little, but as we are like growing up, that shows that there's a problem. We have to like make sure that we limit that at least, right? So the month of Ramadan becomes a month in which we can make all those changes, inshallah, right? وَتَرَكُوا مِنْهَا وَعَلِمُوا أَنَّهُ سَيَتْرُكُهُمْ. So Allah, they leave the stuff that they know is going to leave them soon. وَرَوْا اسْتِكْفَارَ غَيْرِهِمْ مِنْهَا اسْتِقْلَالًا وَذَلِكَ هُمْ لَهَا قَوْتًا أَعْضَاءُ مَا سَعْلَمَ النَّاسِ وَسَلْمُ مَا عَادَ النَّاسِ. They get used to the stuff that people actually run away from. Remember the matter of death? Not everybody's capable of talking about it, let alone like thinking about it, right? But then, no, they constantly use them as a reminder in order to make themselves, or revise themselves on the path of the Sirat al-Mustaqim. So again, it's a matter of how do we use all the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? In a way that we can get the maximum of the benefits, in this dunya and in the hereafter. It's not a matter of pertaining ourselves, for example, to avoid the punishment of hell, right? Or even to get the rewards of the heaven, no. It's a matter of like, enjoying on the utmost level in this dunya and in the hereafter. And when that happiness becomes a true happiness, when actually, we go according to what is real, not something that is fake or is a mixture of, real and fake, right? When we live according to real, realities, that's when we actually feel the true happiness. And again, I think I gave you a couple of examples, like when we see these people, which they have been put in very difficult situation, at the same time when you speak to them, as if like, there are oceans and oceans of patience and happiness and contentment, right? So we always, it always raises the question, how is this possible? If Arizona gets a little bit warm, what are we going to do? Oh Allah, the temperature is warm, is it possible to break the fast? Is there any exception? Right? We always look for a way out of it, right? But you look at some people, no matter what situation they are in, the more the pressure is on them, still they maintain their patience and they maintain their tolerance, right? Meaning that again, they're looking, they're not looking at what's the the first effect of the dunya. They're looking beyond that one, right? They're looking at it as the means in which it will actually get them a little bit higher, right? So that's what we should be our perspective as well, inshallah. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Now I brought a couple other hadiths, but I think our time is coming to an end very quickly. So I'm going to leave it here and I'll just add one extra piece of information, right? So this is OVR Law. Some people may say, okay, people like me, I don't see myself reaching that high, inshallah. So that's the wrong way of looking at it, right? They say the second you start losing hope, that's when shaitan actually has, entered your mind, right? Very interesting story, right? One of the companions of Imam Raza, right? He was doing a deal with one of the officials of, I think it was Harun's time, right? So one day, he was trying to make sure that the transaction actually goes through. So during the month of Ramadan, he goes to see him in his palace, right? And then, it happened to be at noontime. He goes to talk about the business deal. He sees them at noontime. He offers his prayer. Then he asks his servants to bring food, and then he starts eating food right in front of him in the month of Ramadan, right? So he asks him, what's the deal? Are you, for example, sick, or do you have any problem that you cannot pass all the exception ruling that we have? He says, no. I just know that no matter how much of a good deed that I would do, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not forgive me. Then he starts telling him the story. He says, do you know what I have done? He says, no, I don't know. He says, one day I went to Harun and he was sitting, it was middle of the night, he asked for me, right? He was sitting on his throne and he had this sword in his hand and he was looking very angry. There was no light, he just had that one candle on, right? I went to him and he told me how loyal are you to me? I said, I am loyal to you with my life. He said, leave me, right? I went back home. An hour later, he sent for me again. I went back to his palace, sitting in the same place, this time a little bit more angry, right? So he asked me the same question, how loyal are you to me? I said, with my life and with the life of my family, I'm loyal to you. I said, go back home, right? So for the third time I went home, he sent for me again. I went back to his palace, same circumstance, same situation. He asked me the same question, how loyal are you to me? I told him, by my life, by my family, and by my faith. The minute I say by my faith, he said, okay, take this sword, follow the guard, he will tell you what to do. I took the sword, I didn't know what was the plan, right? I followed the guard. We went outside, we went behind the palace, there was this house, he opened the door, we went inside, there were a couple of rooms, right? And there was a well right in the middle of the yard. So he opened the first door. There were close to 20 Sadat in the prison in the first room. So he brought them one by one to the well, and he told me behead them. He brought the first Sadat, I beheaded him. He brought the second one, I beheaded him. 1, 2, 3, all the way to 20. He opened the second room. There was another 20 Sadat in there. He brought them one by one, I beheaded one by one, right? He opened the third room. There was another 20 Sadat in there. He started bringing one by one, I started beheading them, right? When he brought the last